So this video will be an introduction to anatomy and physiology. Basically for anatomy and physiology, it's basically an extension of a biology course that someone would have taken, or a college course, maybe an elective. It basically deals with the same things that most people probably learned in biology class. You have your systems, the nervous system. You have basically the support and function and the homeostasis of the body, um, as regulation of and function of certain systems together, and that's what basically causes the homeostasis, the regulation, and the stability in the body, in order to survive. So, but anatomy is basically, as if you wanted a definition, it's the study. Of course, it has to be the study of. Um, it deals with the structures. It's the study of basically bodily structure. And physiology deals with the study of the function. And both of these are interrelated. You really never will have an anatomy class just specifically anatomy, or a physiology class specifically for physiology. They're interrelated. So we tie these together. The study of structure and the study of function. There's also they use it together to study the unity of structure and function. Like, how does the structure, the function of it, impact our life? How does it make us work as human beings? How does our nervous system help assist with regular activities? How do we have sensations, from neurons to everything that you could think of? So there are different ways that really they study anatomy and physiology. Doctors will typically do this, like pediatricians. You'll see that, you'll witness them do this to you. In fact, when you go for a checkup, um, there's a mode called inspection. Inspection. And that's typically when they look at you with their naked eye and try to see if there's anything wrong with you, or if there's anything wrong. You have palpation, which it's when they feel with their hands to see if anything's wrong. It's like feeling a swollen lymph node or something on your body, and they know that it's wrong. There's auscultation, auscultation. Reminds me of the word to say to hear or listen, ascolto in Italian. Basically comes from Latin. It's just what it says it is. You basically listen for something wrong. It's like if they listen in your lungs, your heart, the heartbeat, they listen for it. And it's basically for natural sound. They can just hear what's wrong. You also have percussion. And this reminds me of when people play the drums and stuff. That's called percussion, right? The examiner taps, like you would beat a drum, taps the body to see if something's wrong, if abnormal resistance, kind of like how they tap your knee and stuff. Um, in order to go deeper, what they're gonna do is they're gonna do dissection, which you're probably most familiar with. Now, dissection is the cutting and separation of tissue to kind of reveal something wrong. And the first step of typical training, and in fact in a health science school, would be dissection of a cadaver. Cadaver. A cadaver is just a dead body, basically. Um, Comparative anatomy, we have that. It's just what it says it is, despite terrible handwriting skills. It's comparative. They compare it based on evolution of other species. Um, they used to perform a thing called exploratory surgery. It sounds like exploration, yeah. Um, it's the opening of the body while they're still alive to see what's wrong, but because of issues with that, as we can imagine, they replaced it with medical imaging. There's a thing called gross anatomy. Gross anatomy. And that's when you see it with the naked eye. It's basically like inspection. Using medical imaging is often defined as radiology. You have your different subdisciplines. You have histology. It's when um, they use a microscope. So, histology. You have histopathology. It's basically when they use the microscope for examination, same as histology, basically. They look for signs of disease or any problems in tissues as well, which we find cytology is upon this area. Cytology is basically like it looks like cells, right? It's a study and function of individual cells. You have the molecular levels are usually revealed by an electron microscope, and that's used for cytology and histology. Um, Different subdisciplines of physiology, actually. You have neurophysiology, which is physiology applied to the nervous system, because neuro, you think of neurons. Physiology is just physiology, and they have comparative physiology as well. They do the same thing as comparative anatomy, except in physiology. You have the basics of an organism. You have your organism, it's a single complex individual. You have the organ system, composed of many organs, basically. You have circulatory, respiration, digestion, right? That's all organ systems. You have organs, and they're composed of two or more different tissues. The skin is actually one of the largest organs in the well for the body, and as support, yes. Um, Tissues are a mass of similar cells. Um, and they kind of comprise a region of a specific organ. There are four principal classes of tissue that we won't really go into, but we will discuss, and I will write on here. This is the first one, epithelial, connective, nervous, and muscular. Um, the reason that people go to our bodies to find simpler substances and simpler things that we didn't really know at first. At first, we just knew the entire body. Is called reductionism. Which first started with Aristotle. But anyway, there's homeostasis. Which is one of the easy to find terms. It's the regulation, maintaining of the systems in the body, right? If you don't maintain homeostasis, you could get sick, disease, you die. We have evolution. Basic evolution just um, throws together comparative anatomy to what other species used to have, what we used to have. In fact, how the appendix is not really used for anything anymore. You have your cell theory, that all living things are made up of cells, right? And that like viruses are not cells, right? Correct. Yes. Um, and now I wish to actually start a beginning of a system. Although I did skip a few of the things that should be known. The things that should be known are basically diagrams of structures in the body, and you just need to know basic naming of figure out disease from like Latin Greek roots, which you should have no problem with. So we have our support systems. The first one I want to talk about is called basically, I call it the skin system, but it's not a good name for it. It's called Integumentary System, which in integument is like skin. It's basically skin and its related organs. So I just want to say skin. And you have the two layers, epidermis and dermis, and the outer layer is called the epidermis, and the inner layers are called the dermis. And then you have another layer called the hypodermis, which is below the dermis. So it goes kind of like epidermis is the outside, dermis is deeper inside, and hypodermis is deeper inside. So and also the study of this is called dermatology. That's if you go to a dermatologist, you know if you have pimples, it's part of your skin. So the skin has multiple purposes. We have resistance, by the way, these things are cursive S's, and resistance to trauma and infection. The epidermal cells are packed with a protein that's very important called keratin. They are also linked by desmosomes. We also have, it helps reduce bacteria because there's a slight acidity called the acid mantle. Acid mantle. It's about 4 to 6 on the pH level, by the way. We also have there's prevention of an excess of too much water, as in from the outside you could like drown if you didn't have it. Barrier against UV rays, although you can still get harmed from a massive amount of that, but it's only permeable to drugs and poisons, unfortunately. Vitamin D is synthesized in the vitamin D is synthesized in here, and it's eventually synthesized for completion in the kidneys and the liver. But that's where it begins, and that's where it's very important. Also for sensation, you have sensations that come from the ability to feel hot and feel cold on the outside of the skin, right? And you have sweat from palms, which brings us to thermoregulatory, which is the it's basically, speaking of sweat, it helps regulate your body temperatures by releasing sweat. Nonverbal communication also is obviously part of it. What frowns, what smiles you make is basically important to the system. And that's basically it for the introduction to that system and to anatomy and physiology. Have any questions, feel free to ask. Feel free to subscribe as well.